My husband left me for a hot girl from the internet and disappeared for 8 years. Now he claims he has a proposal for me. I'm 40 years old and I'm struggling to make sense of a recent decision I made about my family. I'd like to know what others think. It all started 8 years ago when my life turned upside down. My husband Robert suddenly announced he was leaving me and the kids. He said he had met some hot girl online and fallen in love with her. His decision hit me like a bolt from the blue and left me completely stunned. Robert had been acting distant and unlike himself for a few weeks before that, but I chalked it up to work stress. We'd been married for over 10 years, supported each other through everything, and had built a family together. The thought that he might cheat never even crossed my mind. One evening, Robert finally admitted he'd met someone. His words shattered me. He said her name was Isabella and she was the hottest chick he had ever seen. They'd been talking for the past 3 months and had grown so close that he realized he was unhappy in our marriage. Every word felt like a knife to my chest and I was overwhelmed by a mix of anger and despair. He kept insisting he still loved me and the kids, but he couldn't deny his feelings for Isabella. He claimed he needed to meet her in person to see if they had a future together. With a trembling voice, I asked if he was leaving me and the kids for this woman. He slowly nodded, saying that while he didn't expect me to understand, he had to do this for himself. He explained that he'd thought about this decision for a long time and planned to meet her and start a new life. He said he'd support us financially as much as he could, but he had to follow his heart and meet the love of his life. My world collapsed. I couldn't believe my husband was leaving me and the kids for some woman he'd never even met in person. At first, I wanted to scream, beg, do anything to make him stay. But when I looked into his eyes, I knew he had already made his choice and there was no turning back. Robert moved out the next week, leaving me to explain to our children that their father wasn't coming back. Our 9-year-old daughter Emily had 1,000 questions, but I had no answers. 4-year-old Nathan couldn't fully grasp what was happening, but he looked at me as if he knew something terrible had happened. I was broken and empty, but the kids were the only thing keeping me from falling apart completely. My family couldn't understand how Robert could do this after all our years together. My parents wanted me to take him to court, but at that time I had neither the strength nor the will, and part of me still hoped he would come back. Robert's parents were devastated when they found out he had abandoned us. They called him many times, begging him to return, but he told them the same story he told me. Eventually, days turned into weeks, weeks into months. I had to piece my life back together for myself and the kids. Our family and friends surrounded us with support, offering help through hard times. I focused on finding work to provide stability for Emily and Nathan, but the pain of my husband's betrayal never left. Robert's parents helped a lot financially and would watch the kids so I could get a break. 8 years passed, and Robert's presence in our lives became nothing more than a distant memory. He sent money occasionally, but that was the extent of his involvement. I became, for all intents and purposes, a single mother working tirelessly to give my kids the love and care they deserved. Emily eventually stopped trying to contact her father, and Nathan, who had been so young when Robert left, never really spoke of him at all. Recently, Robert's father passed away unexpectedly. We all attended the funeral. Later, the family lawyer told me he needed to speak to me about the will. He explained that Robert's father had left some money to his grandchildren. It wasn't a huge sum, but it would help cover the kids' college tuition. I told the children they wouldn't have to worry about college costs anymore, and their faces lit up. Seeing them so happy after years of uncertainty was truly moving. Then, last week, I got a call from an unknown number. To my shock, it was Robert. Hearing his voice for the first time in 8 years hit me with a wave of conflicting emotions, and I was speechless. He hesitated before saying he wanted to meet urgently to discuss a proposal. Confused, I asked what this was about. He admitted he wanted to talk about some kind of arrangement and kept begging me to meet him. I couldn't understand why he was calling now after all these years, but his persistence was hard to ignore. After taking some time to think, I cautiously agreed to meet him in person. We chose a CAF near my office. I didn't tell the kids. I wanted to understand his proposal first. The days leading up to the meeting were an emotional roller coaster. I kept replaying the past in my mind, the pain of his sudden departure, the struggle of raising the kids alone, the years of trying to come to terms with it all. I arrived early and waited nervously. Soon, Robert walked in. He looked older, Worn down, and nothing like the man I had once married, our conversation started with awkward pauses and polite small talk. Eventually, Robert got to the point. He said Isabella hadn't been who he thought she was also a single mother, which she hadn't told him until after he left us. She had a gambling addiction that drained their money, and they fought constantly. Still, he stayed with her, not wanting to abandon someone again. But after his father's death, he realized life was too short to stay unhappy. He claimed he missed me and the kids every day and regretted his choice. Robert revealed that his father had left him their big lake house, the one we used to vacation at as a family. He wanted to sell it to secure a comfortable life. Then came the bombshell. He suggested we get back together and give our family a second chance, using his inheritance to ensure we never had to worry about money again. He promised I'd never have to work another day in my life if I took him back. I listened quietly as he painted a picture of a financially secure future. The idea of stability was tempting, but I couldn't erase the years of pain, the nights I cried alone, and the struggles I endured without him. I told Robert firmly that while I appreciated the offer, I just can't forget the last 8 years. I told him that all this time I had been raising the kids alone while also managing to work, and that even though we don't have everything one could dream of right now, we have a stable life. I told him I didn't want to risk exposing myself and my children to pain again. I wanted to protect them, and I wasn't sure if I could ever trust him enough to be certain that he wouldn't leave us again. Robert kept begging me to reconsider my decision. His eyes were full of desperation, but I knew that if I let him come back into our lives, I would be jeopardizing the stability of our family. My heart tightened a little at the thought of rejecting his offer, especially given the fact that he could solve all our financial problems. But I couldn't ignore the emotional wounds he had left behind. Since I met with Robert, my parents have been urging me to reconsider my decision and agree to his offer. They keep telling me that the least he can do now is provide me and our children with a better life, free from financial worries and limitations. My parents insist that people can change, and maybe Robert has realized his mistakes and genuinely wants to rebuild our family. They think I'm being selfish and should put my children's comfort above my own emotional pain. For the past few days, I haven't been able to sleep, torn between my choices. I can't bring myself to tell the kids about Robert's return. I worry about how they will react to the news and how they will feel about their father suddenly coming back into their lives after 8 years of absence. I keep doubting myself, caught between the potential benefits of accepting Robert's proposal and the memories of our painful past. So, am I wrong for rejecting Robert's offer and possibly depriving my children and myself of a better life? Update 1. In just a few days, I received thousands of comments and messages from people. I was relieved to know that most of you don't think I'm in the wrong. I took your advice and decided it was time to have an honest conversation with my kids about Robert. The last thing I wanted was for him to suddenly appear in their lives and catch them off guard. Tonight, after dinner, I sat down with Emily and Nathan. I began telling them about the unexpected return of their father and his proposal to come back into our lives. Their faces showed a mix of curiosity and confusion as they tried to understand what I was saying. When I told them that Robert had inherited a lake house and wanted to sell it to help us financially, their reactions were very different. Emily, who is now 17, went through a wide range of emotions from anger to shock. She was as confused as I was and couldn't understand why Robert wanted to come back after so many years. Although she remembered her father and sometimes missed him, she also remembered the pain she felt when he left us. She said that at first, she missed having a father figure in her life, but over time, she learned to live without him and doesn't want him to return. Nathan, who is now 12, said he doesn't remember Robert at all, so he didn't care that I had turned down his offer. He didn't really understand all the consequences of the situation. I told them honestly that I would respect whatever decision they made because I value their opinions. Emily said she absolutely didn't want to meet him, and Nathan agreed, saying he was happy with the way things are now. I realized that, although the idea of restoring our family was tempting, the wounds from the past were too deep, and my children's well-being will always come first. I knew I made the right choice when I walked away from Robert that day. In the CAF Update 2, over the past few weeks, Robert's calls became increasingly desperate. Despite all my explanations that I did not want him back, he kept calling persistently. As someone who tries to avoid conflict, I felt cornered and emotionally exhausted from his constant attempts to reach me. I was worried he might suddenly show up at my workplace or come to the kids' school. So I decided to reach out to his mother. She knew about his return and seemed like the only person who could help me understand his motives and deal with him. I met with her to inform her of my decision to cut ties with Robert and to express my dissatisfaction with his constant calls. During that conversation, his mother revealed the real reason for his persistence. She explained that Robert's father had added a cunning clause to his will when he left him the lake house. Robert could only become the owner of the house if he returned to our family. To secure his right to the house, I also needed to sign certain documents. This revelation shocked me and filled me with disgust. At last, I understood why he had been so determined to contact me these last few weeks. The main reason for his reaching out was not a sincere desire to reconcile or make amends, it was a drive to claim the house. The whole situation felt like a cruel manipulation of feelings, and I needed to carefully consider my next steps. Knowing Robert's true intention, I realized it was time to act. At the time of writing this update, I had already started looking for a lawyer to prepare the divorce documents. I also talked to my parents, who now regret advising me to consider Robert's offer. They understand that he has not changed over these years and support my decision to finally divorce him officially. They regret even suggesting I listen to him and now know that leaving him was the right choice. At the moment, I have blocked Robert so he can no longer bother me. I plan to meet him in person to hand over the divorce papers. Update 3. 2 months have passed since the last update, and now I can share some good news. As I mentioned, I intended to give Robert the divorce papers, so I asked him to meet with me, and he agreed immediately. Emily and Nathan wanted to see their father one last time. They had many questions for him, and I felt it was important for them to get answers to close this chapter. Despite the pain of the past, we agreed to meet in a neutral place, a local park where we once shared many happy family moments before Robert left. Emily's eyes were full of a mix of curiosity and skepticism as she looked at her father. Nathan stood awkwardly next to me. Right away, I told Robert that I knew the real reason why he decided to come back to us after all this time. Robert insisted that it was not just about the clause in his father's will, but also because he genuinely wanted a second chance for our family. I shook my head, realizing I could no longer believe a word he said. I told him it was over for us, and the least he could do was give our children answers to their questions. He nodded. Emily was the first to ask if it was worth leaving us for another woman. Robert lowered his eyes in shame and admitted that he was lost, made a terrible mistake, and deeply regretted his decision. Nathan, more direct, asked if his personal life was more important than the family he abandoned. Robert sighed deeply before answering that he didn't think clearly back then and admitted he was wrong to leave us. My children are perceptive and strong. They were not satisfied with those answers. Robert tried to justify his betrayal by calling it a midlife crisis. Then Robert shared painful details about his life with Isabella, the difficulties they faced, and his realization that he was chasing an illusion. Emily and Nathan listened carefully, though I doubt they believed him. They asked why he never tried to contact them and whether he truly regretted leaving us. I felt the pain in my children's voices. Robert confessed that guilt was eating him up and that he didn't know how to cope with the consequences of his actions. He repeated that he wanted us to be a family again and said he could now provide us a luxurious life. Looking into my children's eyes, I realized the decision was clear. They didn't believe him, just like I didn't, and we wouldn't let Robert easily come back into our lives by offering money as compensation for the harm caused. This was a matter of principle, full of resolve. I told Robert we had already left him in the past and didn't need him or his money. I handed him the divorce papers. As he looked at them with regret and disappointment, he begged me, claiming he sincerely wanted to make amends for these years. But I remained firm in my decision. Then Robert offered to share the proceeds from selling the lake house, claiming that way we both could benefit. But Emily immediately objected, saying we didn't need his charity money. Nathan nodded in agreement and added that we already had everything we needed for happiness. At that moment, it seemed Robert finally realized what a huge mistake he made. He started crying, apologizing to the children, admitting he made a terrible mistake leaving us and that he understood we would never forgive him. That day, when I left the park holding Emily and Nathan's hands, I felt free for the first time. I suddenly realized the burden I had carried for my children. It was heartwarming to see my children protect and support me. Our divorce is underway. I know it will take time to officially be free from Robert, but for now, I plan to take a break to spend time with the kids. We are going to Disneyland, a trip we have been waiting for a long time. I want to create happy memories with my children, full of laughter and joy. To overshadow the painful moments of the past, I am confident that as long as we are together, we can handle any challenges the future may bring. Despite all the trials and emotional upheavals we faced, my children and I are on the path to healing and building a new stable life. This chapter is still far from over, but now we will write our own story, and I intend it to be one full of love and trust. Update 4. Since my last update, I have some amazing news to share. I got a promotion at work, which is a huge achievement for me. It took a lot of time, but now I earn enough to support my family. The promotion brings not only financial stability, but also satisfaction from knowing that my hard work and dedication have paid off. The divorce process is going well. I hired a great lawyer who, after reviewing the history of my relationship with my husband, is confident the process will go smoothly. My family and friends have supported me all this time. Now that I earn enough, I plan to send my children to therapy. I understand they may have issues related to feelings of abandonment, and therapy will help them better cope with emotions and overcome any lingering trauma. I carefully researched options and found an experienced therapist specializing in working with children and families. Meanwhile, as a parent, I try to encourage my children's interests outside of school. My daughter Emily has an outstanding talent for drawing and spends hours creating beautiful paintings that decorate our home. My son Nathan has always had a natural talent for soccer, and on weekends we go to his games and cheer for him. I am proud of my children. As for Robert, we have no contact, and I believe it is for the best. As many of you correctly guessed, his lover Isabella unexpectedly contacted me. However, her message was not an apology as one might expect. It was filled with anger and resentment towards me, accusing me of stealing Robert from her. She blamed me for their breakup and claimed I was the reason he left. Isabella's messages were aggressive and disturbing, and I couldn't help but be shocked by her rage. It was hard to believe that this woman had the audacity to be angry at me when she was the one who caused my family to fall apart 8 years ago. I replied that I had no desire to be with Robert and that I was in the process of divorcing him. I reminded her of the pain and betrayal my family endured when Robert left us for her and said she had no right to talk to me. I emphasized how our life was turned upside down and how my children suffered because of her. I made it clear that I never wanted Robert to come back, and if anyone should be blamed, it was her and her gaming addiction. I blocked her after sending that message and hope she won't try to contact me again. I don't want her to disrupt the peace that my children and I have built. As for Robert's mother, I sometimes communicate with her since she has always been kind to me. She expressed regret about how everything turned out and wishes me happiness. Interestingly, she also told me that because of my decision not to restore relations with Robert, the lake house will not go to him as originally intended in his father's will. This revelation was unexpected, but deserved. It seems fair that Robert faces the consequences of his actions. I know it will be a difficult path, but the healing process has already begun. My children are growing and thriving, and with each passing day, our future looks brighter. That's all for now. Thank you for listening to this story till the end. Don't forget to follow our channel and take care.